What up, fam? This is week 10, the rundown. I am Zach Selby, and with me as always is our editor, Kyle Stackpole. Let me just go ahead and get through the plugs quick before we get to this other stuff, because it's kind of special here. You can check us out on wherever you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, TuneIn. Am I missing any, Kyle? I think we've got all the big ones, right?
I think you got it.
And you can check us out on YouTube and all of our wonderful work at WashingtonFootball.com. And obviously, this is an official podcast of the Washington Football Team, so you can check us out there and get all of our wonderful content. And we haven't said this in a while, but I feel like we should. We deliver you the best content all the time.
Every time.
So the reason we've gone by so quick here with the introduction is because Kyle has been working on something that is honestly just spectacular. His alias is MoStacks. You can find him on SoundCloud. Check him out there. But we got a special preview. He's been spitting some rhymes and giving us some bars. So Kyle, I guess not to give anything else away, but hit me with this track, man.
All right, DJ Stevie, hit it in the back. All right, Mo Stacks on the track, trying out a new rap. 2-6 now, but we on our way back. Alex Smith's back, man, what a comeback. Still can't believe the division's up for grabs. WFT, no name but team. Still a young squad, but we're progressing. Still a lot to learn, but we're in good hands. Riverboat Ron and the Carolina Clan. Season's half done, now it's time to make a run. With Scary Terry, AG, and Chase Young. Hop bomb board with the burgundy and gold. Journey starts now, greatest story ever told.
Oh, it didn't take us any more takes than that
First
one take.
I can't believe
that
we did
one
it
time.
in one take. I know.
Kyle, that was. I give that a B plus. That was really solid.
All
but
right.
You know what's going to be even more solid? This show, because we're about to deliver these people the greatest content they've ever heard. Well, at least since last week.
Exactly.
So
there we go.
We're going to start with something new here. It's going to be called the Pulse. We ask a few questions here. We're going to debate, and we're not going to agree. Well, we hope we're not going. We hope we don't. Let's get started with the first question here. Can Alex Smith, who just came back, is going to be named the starting quarterback? I've been rhyming now. You got me in a rhyming mode here. Can Alex Smith lead Washington to the playoffs?
Okay, so the question, it's if he can versus will he. I definitely think he can, and a reason why was I actually wrote this yesterday, our WFT Daily, about Alex Smith being a proven winner. So in his career, he was drafted first overall 2005. I think his record is 94, 66, and 1. But since 2010, which is the last time he had a losing season, he's 75, 35, and 1. So that's about, he's winning about 2/3 of his games for like the past decade, which is pretty insane. And I know people will say, okay, but he had a gruesome injury. He had a life-threatening recovery. He hasn't played football in 2 years. I get that. But then look what he did against the Giants. I mean, 325 yards was more than he had in any game when in 2018 when he was first traded to Washington. So he showed more in the second half almost against the Giants than he has since he came here. And the other thing is, the biggest thing that happened, the biggest drawback, I guess, from Sunday's game was the turnovers. Killer turnovers, 2 at the end, cost us the game. But he's someone who doesn't turn the ball over. He hasn't had more than, I think it was 5 interceptions since 2011. He takes care of the ball. And Coach Rivera even said it. He was pushing at the end of the game. He was trying to make a play. It's hard to fault him when you only have a couple minutes left and you need a field goal to tie, touchdown to take the lead. So I expect, it seems like he's able to move around well. It seems like he doesn't have any limitations. If he can perform like he did in 2018 when Washington was 6-3 and on top of the NFC East, why can't he lead into the playoffs?
Yeah, 402 yards, most that Washington's offense has put forth since week 1 of 2018. That says something. That shows you how productive he can be. And I'm actually also writing a story about Alex Smith that's going to be coming out Thursday, which you'll be hearing this later on, tomorrow or whenever you hear this, it'll be out on the website, and it'll be about what Alex Smith can bring to the offense. And the short answer is experience. I mean, he's in 2006 he was in the Air Coryell system with Norv Turner, Scott Turner's dad, and I think he had about 2,600 yards, 16 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, but still, I think that experience that he has is really going to help out a lot. I mean, and plus he has a winning record ever since 2010, like you said.
He's a winner.
Exactly. So I think he definitely has a chance. It's the $1 million question here, and he said you get paid to play quarterback, and you get paid to win. So we'll see what he can do. I think after what we saw against the Giants, I think he definitely has a chance. The next question here: should Antonio Gibson be playing more on third down? And this is a tough one because I think that everyone's seen the stat now on Twitter that he's only had 1 third down snap. So, but what do you think about that?
I think it was 1 third down touch, or was it 1 third down snap?
Maybe I know he's only.
It might be snap.
Yeah.
Because either way, it's insane.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what do you think?
So, yeah, this needs to be addressed because I remember earlier in the week I was hyping up J.D. McKissic because he had a career high in targets, career high in receptions, career high in yards, a really great game for him. And all the comments that I got were about, well, Antonio Gibson should be getting more work on third down. He should be catching more balls out of the backfield. Yeah. He was a wide receiver in college. Okay, I get that. But what we need to talk about is, and Scott Turner mentioned this yesterday, Antonio Gibson is basically Washington's main running back. He's their first and second down running back.
He's the guy.
He's their
guy.
Workhorse on early downs. That's not a position that he played a lot in college. So he has to learn everything about being a running back. And for a rookie with no in-person off-season workouts, it takes time to learn that. And so what Scott Turner said was they don't want to overload him.
Right.
If you have him doing all the work on first and second down, and then you have him having to do all the protections on third down and running all these different routes on third down, it could just be overload.
Right.
So, I mean, I think he can get more than he has. I think he deserves to get more than he has been because he hasn't gotten any.
Right.
And I think you have to at least give him a chance to see what he's like as a pass catcher, even if in pass protection it might not be as good.
Yeah.
But I don't think he should be taking over J.D. McKissic at all as the third round back. I think Washington is doing what it should be doing with their running backs, and people just have to wait. They have to be patient and wait for Antonio Gibson to learn more and develop more so he can handle all these roles they want to put him in.
So you think that McKissic should still be the primary third down back?
Oh, yeah. I think Gibson should play more than he has on third down because he's barely played, but he shouldn't be playing that much.
I would say that he does need to be the third down running back eventually.
Okay.
Because
I thought you were going to disagree with me.
I do disagree with you, but I
right.
think the thing is that Scott Turner said that he's still learning a lot of things. Physically, he can do everything, but mentally, they don't want to overwhelm him. And which makes sense, like you brought up, being a Memphis receiver. I mean, he only had 33 touches in 2 years.
Yeah.
We bring that stat up a lot, but it's a big factor considering that he's still learning and he's still so talented. But for me, I think eventually you got to put him out there and do it because he's not going to be able to learn unless he's out there and doing it. And Rivera said we're going to take our lumps. We're going to take our lumps with these young players. Well, I understand there's a point that you want to protect the players and you want them to come along on their own time, but at the same time, you don't learn something unless you go out there and do it, and you make mistakes because he, God forbid, he lets up a sack on third down or something. I mean, that's not great, but you can use that experience to learn and progress and grow because if they envision him to be an every down back, right? And I think you can't be a third down running back if you have never been really on third downs.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
So that's just my opinion on it.
I like that point. One more thing I wanted to mention, and so Pro Football Focus came out with the pass blocking grades, and J.D. McKissic has 82.9. That's fourth among running backs. Gibson is 19.2. It's last.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and Mark Bullock, he works for The Athletic. He does a lot of video breakdowns. He actually had a Twitter thread comparing how McKissic and Gibson blocked on third down. And there was one where McKissic saw someone coming off the edge to the right and completely, came over immediately, picked up the block, whereas Gibson missed someone coming off the edge and it was a sack. But I do agree with you. You have to get him out there eventually.
Yeah.
But I think this needs to be a gradual process. You have to put him out there, but start ramping it up a little bit more so that he can see what's happening on third down. He can get those reps and they can go over and film hey, this is what you need to do better.
Yeah.
This was good, this was bad. So third one, we're going to switch over to the defense.
Okay.
And this is actually something that you wrote about a couple of days ago with the run defense. So the Giants, they do not have a good run defense. They already are out without Saquon
Well, you mean
Barkley.
a run offense, you mean. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, run offense, yes. They were without Saquon Barkley, and they were out Devonta Freeman. So basically, they were playing with their third and fourth string running backs, and they still were able to run the ball consistently against Washington's defensive line. So what's up with this run defense? What's going wrong? How can they improve?
Well, Rivera had a pretty simple solution to it. It's gap control. I mean, if you looked at some of those holes that were in the defensive line, let me tell you something. I could have calmly walked down there to FedEx Field, somehow have gotten past all the crazy COVID protocols and security, and strolled up there, and I still would have been able to get a 5-yard gain out of that. I mean, and I'm speaking facetiously here, but I mean, still, like, it's just not acceptable.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to go with the defensive line, but some of it also has to go to the linebackers as well, because Rivera has called them out. I mean, he said that he really wants them to play better, and that was the solution that he gave. And it was like, he when asked, like, what can they do to improve that, he said, play better. I mean, it comes down to that, and this linebacking group is so pivotal to the front seven and this defense overall. And you've seen, like, with Cole Holcomb, you've seen John Bostic play really well, but then again, you have these moments like against the Giants where they give up 166 rushing yards. I mean, that's just unacceptable against a bottom tier rushing offense like that. So gap control, improving play from linebackers, those are the big two ones that they seem dedicated on improving on, and we'll see if that can help against the Lions, who are also, I think they're ranked 29th in rushing offense.
Yeah, they're not very good.
Yeah.
One more point with that. Coach Rivera was talking to J.P. Finley, NBC Sports Washington, and he flat out said the linebackers are being tentative.
Yeah.
And they need to see the play develop and fill the hole immediately. Mm-hmm. And that just hasn't been happening. So we'll see if it can happen, if they can get back on track against the Detroit Lions and a familiar face, Adrian Peterson. So stay with us here. Coming up, we're going to talk to Detroit Lions writer Tim Twentyman to talk about AP, Matt Stafford, everything that's going on in Detroit. And then we have a new segment coming up, so stay with us.
At RTS, game day strategy doesn't stop when the whistle blows. RTS delivers smarter, more responsible waste and recycling services. As an official partner of the Washington football team, RTS is connecting the team and FedEx Field with sustainable solutions to care for the community and the environment. RTS, a better waste company. Find out more at rts.com.
Has your business been affected by COVID-19? Have you considered reducing or moving your office space? Then it's time to call Victory Van. We provide the best service and price with flexible options for your company's moving and storage needs. Visit victoryvan.com to get your free moving and storage quote today. For corporate storage and moving, it's always the right move to choose Victory Van. That's victoryvan.com. Victory Van Corporation, delivering excellence for 75 years and a proud partner of the Washington football team.
Finch Services Incorporated, recognized in its industry as a world-class organization, is the exclusive supplier of John Deere golf and sports turf maintenance equipment for the Mid-Atlantic region. In business since 1945, Finch helps golf course and sports turf managers maintain some of the most exclusive playing surfaces in the region. Experience the Finch advantage for yourself. Contact one of our golf and sports turf sales specialists to see how we can help you maintain your field of dreams. Go to finchturf.com for more information.
We're back with the rundown, and we are here with Tim Twentyman, DetroitLions.com senior writer. He's been covering the team for the team for this is his 9th season. He's been covering the Detroit Lions for more than a decade. So if anyone knows about Detroit Lions, Washington's Week 10 opponent, it's Tim. Tim, how's it going?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing really well. Great to have you on. So we're just going to jump right into it. Detroit has been an interesting team this year. They've started fast against some really good teams. They beat the Arizona Cardinals, but then against some teams that maybe that they were supposed to beat, they didn't perform as well. So what has been going on in Detroit? What has maybe led to this inconsistency?
Yeah, you said it right there. That's the word, is inconsistency. They just haven't really been able to put 4 quarters together really since, week 3 Arizona. They've got some wins against Jacksonville, a 1-win team, Atlanta, a 1-win team. But when we're talking about beating some of the good teams, the Chicagos, the Minnesotas, the New Orleans, the Green Bay Packers, the Indianapolis Colts last week, it's just they haven't been able to put 4 quarters together. Like you said, they've started off strong. They've led in just about every one of those games this year. And then for whatever reason, they just can't keep it going. They miss a play here, miss an assignment here, let a big play here. And it's probably been frustrating for the coaches and the players that they just can't put it together for 4 quarters consistently enough to win football games.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. And Washington released Adrian Peterson before the season, and Detroit signed him a couple days later. And he leads a backfield that's really interesting. I mean, you have DeAndre Swift, you have Kerryon Johnson. I mean, but how has AP factored into that backfield?
He's been a big factor, leads them in rushing, and he's kind of their early down back. And really, Matt Patricia's philosophy with this backfield is running back by committee. And that's really what you've seen in terms of how they've divvied up the carries. And really how it goes is Adrian Peterson's going to start the game. He's going to get some early carries. They're going to move DeAndre Swift, their rookie who they drafted in the second round out of Georgia. He's going to get some early carries as well. And then it's really going to be dependent on the hot hand. And that's kind of how they've rolled that. Some weeks it's been Adrian Peterson. Some weeks it's been DeAndre Swift. And then Kerryon Johnson, who they drafted a couple years ago in the second round. He's really been their third down guy. But we saw last week he got a consistent load of carries as well. And so it's really running back by committee approach. And look, they want these guys to be healthy in December. So they're not giving somebody a ton of carries, wearing them down. These guys are pretty fresh. We talked to Kerryon Johnson yesterday, and he's hoping that because of this, the way they're doing it early in the season, that all three of these guys are fresh, when they hit the home stretch down late November, early December, and into January.
Moving on to the passing game, you have Matt Stafford, had a really good season last year. He's had an interesting year this year. I mean, he's been on the COVID list twice. He was in concussion protocol. How has Stafford performed this year, and who have been his biggest receiving weapons?
Yeah, it's been an up and down year for Matthew. You look at where he was in this offense at the midway point last year before the back injury, prevented him from playing the second half of the season, and he was playing at a Pro Bowl level. I mean, his yards, touchdowns, passer rating were all top 5 in the NFL. He just, for whatever reason, you mentioned some of the struggles he's had with missing practice, being on COVID, false positives. And last week he came into contact with somebody who had acquired the virus, so he had to quarantine and fly privately to Minnesota. And it's just been kind of a crazy year for Matthew. I'd say the biggest thing with him is the turnovers. He had 2 last week in Minnesota territory that took 14 points off the board. And those have been crucial for him this year. They've really come at bad times in opponent's territory that's taken points off the board. And he said yesterday that's one thing he's got to be much better at. He's got 4 turnovers the last 2 games. You guys know you can't win football games when you lose the turnover battle. And in terms of the weapons, he's got a pretty good one in Kenny Galladay, Pro Bowl player, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, led the NFL with 11 touchdowns. But Kenny's dealt with hamstring injury, and he missed last week's game. He missed 2 games earlier. Now he's got a hip injury. He hasn't practiced this week. And so, the Lions have missed, and Matthew Stafford has certainly missed Kenny Galladay when he hasn't been there. And I don't know if he's going to be available this week too, but kind of stepping up and filling that void is TJ Hawkinson, their second-year tight end. He's been big for him, and he kind of fills the void when Kenny's not there. So we'll just have to see how Kenny, progresses through practice this week. But he missed practice Wednesday, so that's certainly not a good sign heading into Sunday.
Yeah, I really, really like Hawkinson, the way he plays. But moving on to the defense here, I mean, where has Detroit excelled, and where have they struggled? I mean, what are some of the issues that they've had?
Well, the excelled part is kind of hard. Like we talked about at the top, it's really been inconsistent. Against Arizona, they were terrific, generated the turnovers, confused Kyler Murray. I think in the pass game, they haven't been as bad, but, really it starts on the ground. And this is a football team that's, allowing on average close to 150 rushing yards per game. Green Bay and Minnesota went for over 250. I mean, you can't win football games when you're allowing an opponent to run for 250 plus yards. And so I think that's really where it starts the second half of the season. The Lions have to be better against the run, because when teams can run the football, as you guys know, I mean, you control tempo, right? That's demoralizing when a team can just hand it off and go right down your throat. And so they've got to be really better there. And then that will, obviously, allow them to pin their ears back, get teams in good down distance situations, and they just haven't had enough of that. That's really where they've struggled on defense this year.
In the secondary, Detroit has a promising young player in Jeff Okudah. Washington was in position they could have drafted Okudah. They decided to go with Chase Young. Detroit comes back with the next pick and drafts Jeff Okudah. How has he performed this year? And I guess what is his outlook for the rest of the season and going forward?
Well, it's been tough for him. Obviously, as you guys know, with your rookies over there too. I mean, you missed the spring, right? And that's hundreds and hundreds of reps. for a guy to acclimate to the speed of the game, and just to get the scheme down. And then you had a truncated training camp, right? You didn't have any preseason games where rookie players would get an opportunity to play in live reps. You didn't have any of those joint practices. So, the circumstance of this offseason, I think, hurt rookie players, Jeff Okudah included. And so it's been kind of a trial by fire for him, thrown in there on an island against some of the best athletes in the world. I mean, he's faced Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, some of the best in the league. And he's kind of, learned his way, learned on the fly here. And the thing about Jeff is, he's smart. He's got all the physical tools. And so I think the game's starting to slow down, and you've seen him improve every single week. And so what we're talking about week 10, he allowed his first touchdown, last week against Minnesota. So, he's allowed some big plays. He's learning on the fly, but you can see those improvements as the game starts to slow down for him. And so, I think the good thing is that, like I said, he's getting better every week. And so that's a good sign, obviously, heading forward.
Well, finally, I mean, both these teams are really, really in need of this win, not just for improving on their record, but also just to improve their standing in their own division. But what are some of the keys for the game this Sunday?
Well, I think for Detroit, again, so it's like I talked about, you got to stop Gibson in that run game, and J.D. McKissick. Those guys are explosive, and I love how Washington uses those guys together. We talked to Ron Rivera this week, and I think he said we talked to Corey Unlin, our defensive coordinator. He was like, I think they've got like 28 different personnel packages with those two guys in the backfield, different formations and all that stuff. But it first starts with stopping those two guys on the ground. They've got to be able to get in good down and distance situations. That way they can pin their ears back, go after Alex Smith, who, by the way, is a great story. And that's going to be awesome this week, just from a personal level, to watch how he's battled all the way back and to get this start. That's going to be great. But look, the Lions want to get after him, and first they got to stop the run, and then they got to get after Alex Smith. And when they stop the run, they've been good and they've won football games. When they haven't, they've put themselves behind the 8 ball and they've lost. And so I think defensively, that's the key. And then on offense, they've got to take some shots. They've got to find some ways to get the ball down the field. They only attempted one pass of 20-plus yards in the air last week. Teams are playing a lot of cover 2 against them, forcing them to check down. And so they've got to get creative and find some ways to get some guys some separation, get some big plays down the field. Because against that Washington defense in that front, you put yourself in long down and distance situations. Those guys are really, really good. This is probably the best defensive front the Lions will face. So, they got to take some shots, keep them honest, and then be productive running the football. That's, I think, where teams have, gotten a little bit of hay against Washington. You do that, and then maybe you can get some shots as well. So those are 2 keys offensively and defensively for the Lions.
Well, Tim, we really appreciate it. Thanks so much for your time. Where can people find you on social media? I know they can read your work on DetroitLions.com, but where can they follow you on social?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at T20man. And and so we're breaking everything down. It should be a fun game Sunday. I like these young players that Washington has, and so it should be a fun little matchup. I think the future's bright for you guys, but hopefully not on Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we'll see. It should be a good game. Seems like 2 teams that might be better than their record suggests, so it'll be fun. But wish we could see you with everything going on. It's unfortunate, but hopefully next year, who knows? I mean, now we've played you 2 years in a row. Who knows what's going to happen going forward? Maybe we'll be able to see you again, maybe come to Detroit. So thanks so much for hopping on.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Anytime.
Couchgating, presented by the DC Lottery. Couchgating is the new tailgating. Enter to win a chance at a WFT DC Lottery fan pack. Celebrate your Couchgate by sharing a photo using hashtag CouchgatingDCL. To have your Couchgating photo featured on the Couchgating Wall of Fame, please post your photos on social media using the tags at Washington Football, at DC Lottery, and the hashtag CouchgatingDCL for consideration. Please note that not all photos will be accommodated on the Couchgating Wall of Fame, and all Couchgating photos are posted at the sole discretion of the Washington football team. Find adventure in an all-wheel drive Honda SUV, now on clearance. Like the turbocharged all-wheel drive CR-V, the versatile all-wheel drive HR-V, or the adventure-ready Passport and Pilot, both equipped with 3 different driving modes. Take back the driver's seat and find adventure with a rugged Honda SUV on clearance. When it comes to the best value, Honda leaves the others in the dust. See your local Honda dealer and start your adventure today.
We're back with the rundown. Kyle Stackpole here with Zach Selby.
Yep.
Before we move on, it's a big day for Zach, birthday boy. So we got to wish him a happy birthday. We appreciate everything that you do. Love having you as a coworker, as a podcast buddy, I guess. I don't
co-host,
know, partner.
Some would say co-host.
Some would say co-host. Some would say buddy. Some would say friend, maybe guy. But anyway, yeah, great to have you on, and glad we are doing this together. So let's just jump into it. We got for your birthday. We're doing a new segment called Studs and Duds.
You shouldn't have.
I know, but we had to do it for you. Had to start on your birthday. So this segment is a little different because we are not prepared at all for it.
No.
Stevie, our producer, is picking, or she already has picked 5 players that she's going to yell out, and we're basically going to discuss, are they studs or are they duds? Are they performing up to what they should be, or are they underperforming? And it should be a fun segment. So, Stevie, if you want to start off.
Yep. All right. So the first one we're going to go with is Chase Rouillet.
Chase Rouillet.
Oh,
wow, a real curveball there.
Okay, really exciting first one you got there. You want to start with this, Zach?
Well, I'll go with this one because, believe it or not, a different waistline ago, I was an offensive lineman. So I will. I think I'll take the charge on this one here. I like the way Chase Rouillet has been playing. I really do. I mean, I think Morgan Moses has been, I would say, the best guy on the offensive line. But I think Chase Rouillet is not that far behind him because, with this new offense, you're making all the calls as the center. You're giving all the protection. You're giving, the defense what they're looking at. And I think Chase has done an excellent job at directing this new scheme and helping these young guys along as well, because especially on the left side when you almost have like a rotating group there, and they seem like they finally got in a group there with Cornelius Lucas and Wes Schweitzer, but at first that group was very different than it was now, and to bring along Wes Martin, who has not gotten that much playing time, and then to also work with Brandon Sheriff on the right side. I mean, I think you really can't ask for much more out of a center than what you've been asking from Chase Rouillet.
I agree. I'm not the offensive line aficionado that you are, so I'll keep it brief. I think he's a stud. He's been durable. He's the center. He's one of the most important pieces of the offensive line, making all the calls. So I think he's been really good, and that's it. He's a stud in my eyes.
Oh, and since I didn't give my official designation, I will also say he is a stud.
All right.
Bona fide stud.
Number 1 stud, Chase Rouillet. What's next?
All right, we're going to hop to the defensive side of the ball. Thomas Davis Sr.
All right.
The delayed reaction from Stevie Katz. Oblivious in anticipation.
We're only the second player in, and Stevie's already forgot what player
Take it away, man. What you got?
Thomas Davis Sr. He's been such a weird. I almost was going to mention him when we were talking about the linebackers. It's just been very strange with what's happened since Washington signed him, because he is older. I think he's either 36 or 37. He led the Chargers in tackles last year.
Right.
So you thought he was going to come in, and he wasn't only going to be a leader and a culture guy because he had been with Rivera in Carolina.
Yeah.
But he was also going to be someone who, at least to start the season, you assumed he was going to start. He was going to make a lot of plays. He was going to be that leader in the middle, and he just really hasn't played at all. I mean, he's been inactive the past couple weeks. He missed yesterday's practice with non-injury related, and with Rivera calling out the linebackers, it's weird that they haven't tried to put him in, or haven't tried to use him. So in terms of his on-field play, I think he's been a dud. It's hard to say about his leadership because we don't see that, and I assume that he is really instilling the culture that Ron Rivera wants. So in that case, he might be a stud, but in terms of on-field play, he's a dud for me.
Yeah, I got to go with a dud. I wanted to disagree with you, but I really can't because he led the Chargers in tackles last year, and he's been basically a no-show on Sundays. Yep. I mean, now that's not to say he hasn't had an impact, because as you're establishing a new culture in Washington, I mean, you have to have a guy who knows Ron Rivera, who's been with him for years and years and years, and knows what he expects out of his linebackers. And, we don't know exactly what's going on in that locker room. We don't know what's going on the practice field. I mean, he could be helping them out in other ways, but I think just from a production standpoint, I was excited for Thomas Davis. I expected him to be I expect him to be a routine starter.
Me too.
And to do something other than what he's been doing. So I got to agree. Dud all the way.
All right, we got one stud, one dud. Stevie, what we got?
All right, we're going to stay with the defense, but go to the secondary. Fabian Moreau.
Fabian Moreau. Wow. You're pulling him
She's
out.
making us think here. Like,
Yeah.
I haven't even thought about these players.
No. Well, I would say Fabian Moreau has... I'll say he's a stud because he is part of this secondary that is the best secondary statistically in the league right now. 185.9 yards per game. I think that it might have gone a little bit down since then, but still number one in the league in passing yards. And he had an interception against the Eagles. I think that's also pretty impressive, I would say. And he hasn't done all that much yet, but I would still say that, it's hard to say because you really haven't seen that much out of him since then. But I think just because he's part of that group, he offered some leadership skills just from last year and being able to be a strong contributor in that regard. I'll say a stud for him. I'll give some love to Fabian Moreau.
All right. I thought you were going to talk yourself into him being a dud with how you
I did for a minute, but then I was like, you know what? I like him. I'm going to go with the stud.
You hit us with he had the interception week 1 against Philly. That seems like a long time
It does. But, hey, that played a pretty big role in them winning that game.
It did. And he did, the first couple games, he did perform well. But the reason he was in there was because Kendall Fuller was hurt. Yeah. So for me, I think Fabian Moreau's been a dud because he hasn't been on the field. And is that his fault? Not really, because the guy playing in front of him is playing at a Pro Bowl level and is tied for second in the league with interceptions. Passer rating allowed is by far the lowest in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus. So Fabian Moreau is just not on the field, and I can't give a guy a stud designation if he's not even playing. So I think
but when he's on the field,
but
he's been producing.
Yeah, but he's not playing. How many games has... I can't even tell. Maybe he started 2 games out of 8 this year?
But look, you just mentioned it right there. You said Kendall Fuller's in front of him. What are you supposed to do when Kendall is having one of the best seasons for a corner and literally the lowest passing rating of any cornerback in the league, and he leads the league with 4 interceptions? I mean, obviously you're not going to be able to get on the field with that when you have a player like that in front of you. I mean, but when you get on the field, when you take advantage of the opportunities they're given, that's what Chuck Del Rio said. He said, it's not how many snaps you get, it's what you do with those snaps. And so far, when Fabian Moreau is on the field, he's taking advantage of the snaps.
All right, let me tell you what Fabian Moreau has done with his snaps. So he did have a snap against the New York Giants. You know what happened? Darius Slayton beat him for a 25-yard touchdown. So he hasn't done anything with his snaps since Kendall Fuller came in. He's a dud for me, stud for you. Let's move on.
All right, going back to the offensive side of the ball, let's go with wide receiver Dontrell Inman.
Dontrell Inman, okay. I mean, I can't go either. What's the middle between stud and dud?
A spud.
A spud. All right.
Potato.
Okay.
Everyone loves potatoes, but they're still called a spud.
Okay. Well, he's in the middle for me because what he came in here. It's weird because he came in here to really just I guess you know what I'm gonna call him. He came in here to be a number 2 receiver.
Yeah.
Kelvin Harmon got hurt. Steven Sims had a good year last year, but he's still young. He's still a undrafted free agent. So they brought Dontrell Inman in to be that veteran receiver, to be that guy alongside Terry McLaurin. So I think he's been a dud.
Yeah.
Based on what they brought him in to do, and it's really he hasn't done much. I mean, he's been fine. He's made a couple catches. He had a great game against Cleveland, and you kind of thought, oh, is he going to be able to build off that and really solidify himself as a number 2? But he hasn't done a lot. I mean, you've seen Isaiah Wright do he's flashed more than Dontrell Inman has, and now Dontrell Inman is injured. Same thing with Thomas Davis. He's the veteran, so I'm sure he's helped the younger wide receivers along with just his work ethic and his experience. But in terms of on-field production, I'm giving him a dud.
Well, if you would have asked us this 6 weeks ago, I would have said he was a stud.
I agree.
I mean, because he was playing well. I mean, just think about that Browns game. He had 2 touchdowns.
He was huge.
I mean,
he was huge, yeah.
Now, I will say, like you said, you bring him in there as the number 2 guy and to be a veteran leader for this team, but it seems like he's really... I mean, Terry's the leader of that group,
that's
right?
True.
I mean, he's the veteran leader as the second-year guy. But I will say that, Dontrell Inman, actually, I did a story on this a few months ago, and it's basically I just laid out that Dontrell Inman does other things that you don't really see. He's he's trying to get the receivers together. You know, he's given these young receivers knowledge, and I think that's important for a group that, you know, I think not a lot of them are past like the age of 26.
Yeah.
So,
really young. Really
I mean,
young.
yeah. So I got to go with a dud, but I think off the field, he's a stud. But on the field is really what matters more.
Awesome. And then the last one, you guys kind of already touched on it in segment 1, but quarterback Alex Smith.
That's such an easy one. I mean,
All right, should we say it at the same time?
Well, if I can...
okay, we got a clarification
The
here.
reason that I say it is because he's played 2 games, a game and a half, yes. And how many turnovers has he had in those 2 games? Game and a half.
All right, so I think we
that's
have
a
to
good
we
point.
have to take the JP Finley standpoint here. He said on Washington Talk podcast that eventually this becomes a football conversation and not a good story conversation. So I think in the grand scheme of things, he's a stud. But I think it's almost like you don't know yet. I mean, like you don't know what he's going to be. So I'm going to stick with stud for now, just because he threw for 325 yards. Those 2 interceptions that he had at the end of the game weren't necessarily, you know, he's not getting blamed for that because they were trying to make a play to win the game. I say for now, it's subject to change, but stud, ... ellipses question mark.
That's kind of how I feel. I was almost going to say dud, but then look at the circumstances he's had. He came in after not playing for 2 years in the pouring rain against the Los Angeles Rams and Aaron Donald, and they were just pinning their ears back and getting after him because Washington was down. Then he comes in middle of the game, or I guess the first quarter, against the Giants. They're trailing. They end up going down 20-3 at half, and he ends up, you know, scoring 17 points, more than 250 yards of total offense.
Yeah.
The interceptions hurt, and they're really throws that he shouldn't have made, and he admits that. But he was trying to make a play. He didn't have any starters reps. I mean, the guy hasn't had starters reps in 2 years.
Wow.
So I think it's perfect. It's like he's a stud because of what you know Alex Smith as, and the interceptions were killer, and like he's definitely a dud at the end of that game. Like if it was like end of Giants game, start of good, like the biggest dud in the world. But I think
That was a little harsh.
I mean, just saying. But going forward, I have faith in Alex to perform more like he has before he got hurt, rather than how he's performed these first 2 games. So give me a stud for Alex.
All right, so that was our first segment of studs and duds. Looked great, but we're gonna have to roll through the other segment, one that people are clamoring for.
We got the clock over here staring at us.
Exactly.
Like,
So
wrap it up.
Let's roll with who we got here. More rushing yards. AP or Gibson? Just give me 1 sentence, and I'll give 1 sentence for each.
All right, I'm gonna say AP because he's a future Hall of Famer. I don't think he was very happy that Washington let him go. I'm sure he understood, but I think he's going to come out and have a decent game.
I'm going to go with Gibson. Last time that he faced a weak run defense, he had 128 rushing yards. So I think he could be prone to have that same kind of production again and show exactly why the coaching staff chose him over AP. Next one, net punting yards, Tress Bay or Jack Fox.
So Jack Fox he's number 1 this year, net punt average and total punt average. I think Tressway is going to be looking at this like, hey, I'm the reigning Pro Bowler. I'm the starter in the NFC. We got Jack Fox coming over here. He's had a good start to the year, but you know I've showed myself. So I'm going to go out there. I'm going to boom a couple punts, couple inside the 20, maybe a couple inside the 5-yard line. Who knows? And I think Tressway is going to reestablish himself as that top punter in the NFC.
I mean, Tress Bay, he's probably like he's a top 5 player in this team, I would say. Arguably top 3, maybe. Maybe hot take. Either way, I'm gonna go with Tress Bay just because he's a Pro Bowler. He's great. Last one, more sacks, Montez Sweat or Romeo Okwara, if I'm saying that name correctly. They both have 5 sacks each. Who you got?
Well, I didn't know how to spell Romeo Okwara's last name, so Montez Sweat.
Okay, well, I'm rolling with what I don't know. I'm gonna take a gamble here because I need to get some improvements on my last week. Romeo Okwara, give me all the sacks.
All right.
But that was who you got, and now it is time for us to get back to work and delivering these people the best content all the time. every time. You were supposed to come there and say every time, but you didn't. That's okay. We're out of time.
You surprised me with how fast you just rolled
Anyway,
into
this is the official podcast of the Washington Football Team. You can check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, any other ones that you normally go for. And check us out on YouTube. Check out all of our wonderful content at WashingtonFootball.com. And for Kyle Stackpole, include the F in there, I'm Zach Selby. Oh yeah, catch us on the Twitters at Kyle Stackpole and Zach G. Selby. Finally, you got one more thing?
Yeah, and I will be creating SoundCloud from Mo Stacks.
Oh, yes.
We'll be reaching out to Wale, maybe trying to do a collab moving forward. If he would, I know he just did a song about Chase Young, so I think I could help with that football team expertise. So you know what, Wale, if you're listening, reach out.
We got the collaboration set up soon. For Mo Stacks, I'm Zach Selby. This is The Rundown.
For more than 100 years, Chesapeake Employers Insurance has been helping Maryland businesses keep their workers safe. With competitive pricing and an AM Best A- financial strength rating, it's no surprise that Chesapeake Employers is Maryland's largest writer of workers' comp insurance.
At the end of every workday, someone's waiting for your safe return.
Connect with your agent or visit CEIWC.com.
Locally owned Novak is energizing the community in powerful ways. From sponsoring meals for first responders and medical professionals to donating generously to area food banks, Novak knows we're in this together. Novak and customers are funding crisis energy assistance by having their bills rounded up each month. Novak and employees are supporting local charities through Novak Helps. That's the power of working together. That's Novak.
And now, time for another Honda clearance highlight. Jed was in mid-season form when his car went into early retirement. Looking to upgrade his roster to all-wheel drive, Jed went down to his local Honda dealer and scouted the CR-V, Pilot, Passport, and more. In the end, Jed saved his season by getting an HR-V with collapsible magic seats on clearance. Savvy stuff, Jed. Very savvy stuff.
Save your season with a clearance deal on an all-wheel drive Honda. See your local Honda dealer today.